Hey, tired tonight. Another day of chipping away at the endless hair that Coco has, along with a bath. So, that is a job. No two ways around it. Today's been good though, nice and chill. Mom made chicken pot pie, it was great. Finished Breath of Fire 4. Um, considering linearly it was more narrative driven, there were. I was gonna say we didn't get a chance to really know the characters, but then again, compared to other games, well, no, I can't really say that because 2 had some nice moments, some nice character moments. But like, comparative to 3, I'd say it's comparable. Like, basically the same thing. Um, not a lot of character moments, but between the two, about the same amount. So, roughly wanting a little bit more from both of them. I kind of was sizing up the first 4 in my head earlier today, while I was fighting my internet for a while. Um, and it's like 1 is definitely the most simple, and it absolutely had the worst encounter rate. Just the absolute worst. It was awful. But 1 was the only one with a completely functional repel. Um, Smoke bombs are just smoke. 100% chance of, like, 0% chance of encounters when you used it. Uh, 2 had less encounters overall, but its smoke just reduced the chance by like 10% or some garbage. So, like, you know, impossible to turn the encounters off without cheating, which I did, and I am not ashamed because I don't think I would have finished that game otherwise. I think I would have quit in that final dungeon. Like, I literally saved myself 3 or so hours. Um, or let's just say the time that I would have had to spend in that dungeon, I instead spent replaying the game so I could get the good ending. So it all kind of balances out. Um, I think 2 had some of my favorite character designs. Like, I think the sprite work was really at its peak in 2, and 3 was a bit more style, or it was a different sort of style. Um, or I guess, that just means 3 had my favorite, or 2 had one of my favorite style. I really liked the way 4 looked. Um, 4 had some excellent atmosphere. Um, I want to say this: the whole series just had good music. It's had some pretty high points, and never, and even the low points are never bad. They're just, there's a chance that in like a year you could play some of those songs and I wouldn't. I'd be like, I think I've heard this before. I can't tell you where it's from, but then there are absolutely tracks that's like, oh man, this is from so and so, or and stuff like that. But as far as like establishing an oppressive atmosphere, the final dungeon of 4 was very effective at that. It had really good music. Um, aesthetically, the design was, I mean, gee, that had, I was a bit uneasy the whole time I was playing that last dungeon, in a good way, in that sort of, I'm immersed in the game, and this place feels wrong kind of thing. And then the day we jumped to 5, or as it's known outside of Japan, Dragon Quarter. And I'm enjoying it so far, but it is a much different game. It's not necessarily a good or a bad thing. What I feel like, where I am now, I feel like by the time I walk away from this game, I'm just gonna kind of wonder why it was a Breath of Fire title, you know? I'm gonna enjoy it, but I can, I can see it kind of being ostracized from the rest of the series. I mean, just visually for starters, it's the first game with fully 3D models and environments. So, you go from basically timeless sprite work, if you like that style, to, yep, this is a PS2 game. And, while it hasn't explained itself very well, so far it's all taken place underground. And so it's like dank, and it's more sci-fi than high fantasy, like the rest of the series. The battle system is entirely different in that it's somewhere between, and this is gonna make zero sense to most people, but it's somewhere between Eternal Sonata and the Tales games, I think. Like, basically, you engage with an enemy in the field, which is good. First game with that absolutely does not have random encounters. They are all on the field, and you can just run past them if you need to. And then, you take turns doing kind of real-time movement things. Like, you have a set amount of points for moving and doing actions. You can pass your turn to have double the points. So, if you don't use your full gauge up to it being full, when you end your turn with that character, the next turn that character will have up to unfull, whatever the extra was. So up to doubling your gauge if you don't move and don't do anything when passing your turn. And that can make for some interesting strategies. And I'm having a lot of fun with it so far. One of the most bizarre things it does is, I've talked back and forth about how the first 2 games were extremely forgiving in the death system, in that you kept all of your experience and everything. You just lost a percentage of your money, went back to the last place you saved, and continued about your day. And 3 and 4 did away with that, with straight up game over screens, although 4 did offer a way to literally buy insurance. And then Dragon Quarter said, you know what? Screw all of that. When you die, you can go back to your last hard save, which, by the way, you have to collect items to hard save, similar to typewriter film in Resident Evil. You can either go back to that, but you take a money hit and you lose some of your experience, I think, or you can start over. and your current equipment carries over. So your weapons and gear, your skills carry over, and any any items you have put away there's a like a specific item locker. There's a safe box that carries over, and there's, depending on your performance, you earn bonus experience after every fight, and sometimes you find it laying around. That's called party experience. That's carried back over. So, for example, I've been playing for about 4 or 5 hours. I hit a boss fight. I had not saved in a while, and so I said, screw it, we're starting over. Went back and was immediately able to level my character up to level 10. He's got all the skills and stuff that I'm used to, and I have cleared the first area, which took me about an hour and a half the first time, in roughly 15-20 minutes. With the only annoyance being managing my inventory, because it's very limited, but it expands over time. I wish you kept backpack upgrades, which you might if you actually finish the game. Also, there's you have a specific stat that increases whenever you actually finish the game. Apparently, I did a little bit of reading on it because it's a very bizarre game, in a good way. I really enjoy the concept. In fact, this is how I thought Lightning Returns was gonna play, and when it didn't, maybe it did, and I just didn't get it. I didn't understand how to do a reset, because it felt to me like I was just gonna game over and have to start back from my last save at any given time. But whatever. And to sort of the game kind of expects you to get your shit kicked in right away, which I did. Third fight, I think, I got wiped. It was like you could start over, and I was like, oh, okay. And I was pretty quickly treated to a couple of extra cutscenes that had not played the first time. And that's the way it seems the story's going to unfold. Like I said, there's a stat that increases based on performance when you actually finish a save, and I've already run into a few places that were cordoned off because my stat for that was too low. So extra areas, extra experience, all that good stuff on New Game Plus runs. So that seems really interesting, and I'm curious. I haven't looked it up. So I'm kind of curious on roughly what the length of the game is. But they're very forgiving with being able to skip cutscenes. Thank God. That's one of the reasons I, have re-cleared this area so far so quickly. And I can only see that speeding up over time, which is good. It knows what it wanted to do, and it's made it as efficient as possible, and that's good. So I am interested to keep playing it, but I can definitely see this just massive shift being if I'd grown up playing the Breath of Fire games and this came out. I can understand people being like, what is this? It'd be like, instead of Wind Waker, we got Fallout Hyrule. I remember seeing some fan concept art of a post-apocalyptic style Hyrule, as in modern day post-apocalyptic. So Link's out there with a riot shield and a baton. That kind of thing. And like, as cool as that would be, it would also be like, man, can you really still call this Zelda? Well, it's like Federation Force. Federation Force was fun. It just shouldn't have been a Metroid game. Or, like, at the very least, it shouldn't have had the Prime subtitle. It shouldn't have been a subtitle Prime. Which I get what they were going for. It's the Prime style of gameplay in that it is a first person shooter. But if it had just been called Metroid Federation Force, even the lack of the word Prime, I think would have softened the blow of Federation Force. But I'll stand by, it was a fine game. It was fine. It was fine. And I imagine it would have been actually kind of fun to play with 4 people. But I digress, because I am tired, and the arm that is holding the phone is falling asleep. So, I will catch you all tomorrow.